Hey, what's up, guys? Node Investor here. Hope everyone is doing well. Thanks for joining me here today. And for those that are catching the replay later on, thanks for watching. Appreciate the support, the continued interaction here in this crypto. Very volatile, wild action here. Even as I start this live stream, it looked like we were breaking out of this little bit of a bull flag type of pattern on that breakout attempt. Big rejection, high volume. You never like to see that. So we will deep dive the charts. We will look at Bitcoin. I've got a handful of names on the list that I'm going to be going through. And of course, if you guys want to look at a few, we will take some requests here. I will make some notes after I'm done with my short list. It's a quick list here today. And then we'll look at some of the names that you guys want to look at. We'll just kind of take a look at the charts. I'm going to look at both BTC pairs as well as USD pairs. Some of the USD pairs are still setting up pretty good. There's a lot of breakout setups, but of course, it's going to really depend on what Bitcoin does here near term, as is generally the case here. So I'm just getting back to the swing of things here. I was off for a couple of days, enjoying the snow here. We only get about 5 weeks worth of winter in Arizona. And so had some pretty good snow come down. And I went up to the mountain for 3 days and enjoyed the snow, enjoyed the warm drinks by the fireplace and all that fun stuff. But back to the swing of things here, back in the office and looking at the charts. I did do a little bit of trading while I was out, but not a whole lot. I just kind of kept it low key, most quick trades for the most part. And just I will post a video update later today for those that are following along on the Bitcoin trading account. And spoiler alert, it's nothing to write home about. It's just kind of a mostly flat, barely in the green, but just mostly flat. A couple of trades up, down, not too bad, but just kind of waiting things out for now. I'm 100% in BTC. I'm still holding BTC in my other accounts, and I'm still long. And so far, it's working out. But I got long back here on this dip, on this pullback from the Christmas rally highs and back that pullback that we had going into the end of December. And so I've kind of just been holding through this little bit of a pattern that we see here. So all right, so let me go ahead and start the update here. We'll start with a look at the coin market cap here. Looking at the BTC dominance here, right around 51.8%. Not a lot of change, most alts have been following suit. With BTC, you're seeing some up, some down, but not a lot of change. All in all, it's good because when Bitcoin is strong, the alts seem to be doing pretty good and vice versa. So that's generally the way we want to see it. Looking at the market cap valuations, bounced off that close to $100 billion mark, which is good, up to about 136 now. We'll see if we can continue to get a little bit of a rally. But across the board, when you look at the details, there are some big winners, some small losers. Yesterday was mostly red. Alts were in pullback mode since ETH and some of these other names have topped, or not half topped, but pulled back. Most of the other alts were in pullback mode. And then here today, we're seeing some pretty good green showing up across the board, a little bit of rally, some pops as BTC begins to resume its uptrend. But we'll see if we can get a breakout confirmation, because right now it attempted it and got smacked right back in. And so let's start with the BTC chart here first. I'm going to start with the daily picture here because it's really important to note the big picture when looking at some of this stuff here. And in the big picture, after that swing high we saw here on December 24th, we went in almost 2 weeks of just choppy, sideways, flat action. There was a few alts that were really pumping during this time, but for the most part, it was just kind of this consolidation period. And then we finally broke out of this symmetrical pattern that I was watching here. And you can see, I'll just draw it very quickly. This tightening pattern that we were watching here was really coiling up. And then on Sunday, my Sunday, in about 10 minutes, just blasted right through all of these near-term resistance levels. And then since then, we've just kind of seen this little bit of a bull flag type of pattern, which is good. It's constructive, except for the last hour or so. But it's constructive because it landed right at these EMA pairs on lower volume. Oops, sorry about that. Let me pull back my chart. I hit the wrong one there. And so that is good. Volume was good. And of course, this was the whole Bitfinex shutdown period. There was a lot of concern what might happen, what might not happen. For the most part, turned out to be a non-event. But this morning, waking up, I'm seeing charts breaking out of this little bit of a downtrend. Good news. Now I was watching to see if we can break out of some resistance levels. You saw an attempt here. Let me zoom in a little bit. Maybe hard to see on the screen, but there was that big wick, big reversal as it tried to clear resistance. And look at the volume on that reversal. I mean, just a ton of selling showed up right as it tried to break out. Not writing it off just yet. It's still holding these lows. But if it starts to close below this 39.80 level, then that's not going to be good. And most likely you'll see a retest of the breakout point here, sub 3,900, in and around that zone. So if we may see it during the course of this stream. I'm going to try to go about an hour here, but that's going to be the target on the downside if we break below this trend. But for now, it's still holding the trend line, still holding the 10 EMA on this 4-hour charts. But if we zoom in here, I'm going to zoom in real granular. I generally don't trade on 5-minute charts, but just to show you guys some of the detail here. This was the breakout this morning, just really started to march higher. And then we had this big breakout attempt and then just totally fizzled. And so near term, seeing a little bit of selling pressure as it tries to break out. But it is interesting that that happened right at the candle close. I got an alert on my phone, I hit 4,100, and I pulled up the chart and it was all the way back down here. I was thinking, oh, a little bit of a breakout attempt with no follow through and volume showing up as that happens. So we'll see how that plays out. But zooming out again, going back to that daily chart, a couple of levels I'm watching on the upside. A daily close, and this is what I was watching. I had my alert set around that 4,100, but a daily close around that 41 or 4,075 would begin to clear some resistance on a closing level. Now, we have some intra-day wicks here that were above this level, of course, and those certainly need to be acknowledged, but a daily close above this would really start to signal a breakout of range, a breakout of resistance. But on the way up, it's important to note there's going to be just several levels of resistance all the way up, because even though we have had a pretty good little bit of a rally here, in the big picture, I'm still treating this like a bear market bounce. I mean, let's be real. That's really all it is right now, is a bear market bounce. There is no long-term trend change just yet. If we go to the weekly chart, this blue line is a 10 EMA. You can see the 10 EMA is approaching 4,300 right now, and we've seen a bounce from oversold conditions, but the volume is starting to dry up here a little bit. So unless we see a strong move higher, I mean, you got to just take every step up with a little bit of caution, because it's still in a bear market technically. The weekly chart is still drifting lower. Since breaking below that 6K, we had a very strong move to the downside. We were due for a bounce. We're seeing that bounce. How high does this bounce take us is anyone's guess. There's some targets to certainly look at. You can do some fib retracement levels on a bounce, some of these resistance levels that I've highlighted on the way up. But going into this zone, every time it gets to the next resistance level, it's going to be stronger and stronger selling pressure. So just keep that in mind. Always take the cautious approach until we're in a confirmed longer term uptrend, which we are not. Shorter term time frames, of course, it just depends on what you're trading. Some folks do the scalp, some folks trade 1 hour time frames, 4 hours daily. So it really depends on your time frame, and that will certainly dictate the strategy and the risk management that you're taking on your approach. For those of you that are trading, for the long term investors, the hodlers, I have been taking some entries here on this at these lows. Is it the low? Who knows? Is it going to be the ultimate low? It's anyone's guess, but for me, the longer term picture, buying at these levels, risk reward is favorable when you look over a longer horizon, right? When you start talking 6 months, a year out, I'm okay picking up at these levels. Near term trading, it's a whole different story. So if going back to the weekly chart here before we go to the alts, because this is important to note on the weekly chart. Let me clear all this here. So on the weekly chart, a couple of things that the bulls would want to see here. Let's say this bounce, rally, whatever we want to call it, fizzles out around 4,500 or something. If we pull back, you're going to want to see a higher low. We may see a retest of that, create a big double bottom type of pattern on this weekly chart, and then you would see the next rally. And of course, the big resistance level is going to be going into that support level that broke down. And so between 3,100 and 6K, we could stay here for months, right? I mean, it could literally be a long time. There's still some folks out there that are betting on 2K BTC, 1900 BTC. You know, like I like to say, one day at a time, 1 week at a time. It's just, you know, you just take it as it goes, right? But you got to pay attention to some of those bigger resistance levels. So that's what I'd be interested in seeing. If we get another rally, let's say for another week or so, maybe 2, and it starts to fizzle out sub 5K, then I'd be looking for a pullback back to that mid 3K level, and then we'll see how it goes from there. So just kind of keeping the macro perspective in mind when looking at the charts here. But back to the time frames here. There's a question on time frames there real quick. How do you trade on different time frames? So that's a good question, right? Because personally, I don't like to trade BTC on shorter time frames. It's just way too volatile for me, and mostly very unpredictable, to be honest. On the alts, I like to trade generally on a 4-hour time frame is where I look for my setups, and then I may zoom into the 1-hour charts for a little bit of more of a tactical entry point, that sort of thing. But you want to always move a higher time frame depending on what your time frame is. So for example, if I'm trading on a 4-hour time frame, which, you know, I'm looking at this chart, you know, my setups and all that stuff may come here, but I'm going to look at the daily chart to see where things are on a higher time frame, right? Are we trending higher? Are we trending lower? Where's the next major resistance? All that good stuff. And that will apply to any time frame. If you're trading on a 1-hour time frame only, then you're going to do the same thing. You're going to zoom into the 1-hour chart, and then you're going to zoom out, go to the 4-hour, and see where's the 10 EMA, where's the resistance levels, all that stuff. So the strategies will vary depending on the time frame. So will the expected risk return and all that stuff, because you know, on a higher time frame, 4-hour chart or a daily chart, I mean, yeah, you can get those double-digit swings, and it's very common in the crypto space. But you know, if you're trading on a 5-minute or a 15-minute chart, you probably shouldn't be banking on a 20% swing, right? So that changes the strategy a little bit. But in terms of the actual setups and the strategies and all that stuff, markets are fractal, so you can find similar patterns on shorter time frames. So somebody's mentioning Tron in the comments, and Tron's a good example. So yesterday, somebody in the group was looking at Tron. So here's Tron daily, right? You could have been trading Tron since back here and just riding the trend. Or if you go to the 1-hour Tron, you know, they were looking at this chart, and it was a nice setup that they pointed out. And they were looking at this inverse head and shoulder on Tron on the 1-hour chart, right? And if you're looking at it from that perspective, if that's your trade setup, then it's hit your target, right? That was the swing. You entered on a breakout and it hit your target and you're done. And so it'll depend on the time frame that you're trading. But the patterns, the type of setups, resistance levels, all that stuff, the concepts are pretty much the same, but the approach to how you trade it on the time frames will vary a little bit. So, all right, so let me see here. Let me go through some of the names on the list, and we will get to it. So let's look at Ethereum first, because Ethereum was a big mover over the last couple of weeks, and then has since taken a breather here. I'll go to the 4-hour time frame here real quick. So this is what I was watching, and someone else pointed this out here, and this was, you know, a little bit of a rising wedge on Ethereum. Let me clear this line first here. And, you know, it was trending higher, and it was just one of those, until the trend breaks, you go with the trend, and it was a very strong move, but no doubt it was getting a little extended. If you look at it on the daily chart, it was getting extended from moving averages. RSI was starting to peak out, and there was a little bit of a divergence starting to show up here in this last leg higher. That may be hard to see. Let me zoom that up. But if you can see this RSI drifting lower, the MACD histogram was barely in the green during this last leg higher. And that really started to signify, hey, this is starting to lose some momentum here on this most recent rally here. And sure enough, it paused there on January 5th and has since been in pullback mode. Not necessarily crashing, it's just a normal pullback. It needed to pull back. And now we're seeing the momentum kind of start to slow down here on the selling. If we go back to the daily, you can see this is basically just a touch back to the 10 EMA on the daily. Let me clear those lines for you guys. And so it's just kind of a normal pullback at this point, and I'd be paying attention to see if some support can land in and around that zone. That also happens to line up with this prior breakout point. If you go back to the 4-hour chart, this last base that was setting up that broke out. Prices are just right above there. So in and around there would be an ideal place for ETH to find some support and start showing some new base building and consolidation at that level. That'd be good. If it starts to really drift much below that, then it could, kind of signal that, hey, that was probably the end of the move and a bigger correction is underway. But right now, if you look at the fib levels, that base also happens to line up with a 382 retracement level, which is a good retracement level. So not the end of the world, but it certainly is in pullback mode here for the last few days, back to the moving averages. So we'll see where that support begins to show up. Looking at it from the USD pair, let's go to Coinbase here, and a very similar type of action. You saw the pullback, and it's just here the last 2 days pulling right back to a moving average. So nothing major, right? No real big sell signals per se, other than it's finally due for a pause. And that's what we're seeing right now. You're seeing a little bit of a pause. And big picture, if it continues to rally, I mean, this has been leading the market, then you could be looking at about $180 as the next target on the upside. So not too bad, still on my radar. I'm not on ETH in an ETH trade right now, but I'm definitely keeping an eye on it. Looking at Litecoin, Litecoin has been very strong. And admittedly, I got shook out of Litecoin. It was a profitable trade, but it could have been a better trade. But I got shook out of this guy here. And yesterday I was watching the markets pulling in, thinking this is a pullback right to this breakout point. Probably not a bad secondary entry point. And then here it took off again this morning. But it's interesting to see that it's hitting resistance basically at the same level that it hit on January 6th here on Sunday. I think that was Sunday. And so we'll see how this little pause happens. It'd be nice to see a little bit of a handle consolidation that doesn't get too deep here and then set up for another break higher. But the trade setup here was this breakout above, what is that on the BTC chart here? About 8,500 basically was the setup that I was watching. You can see this big consolidation that happened over the course of 2 weeks. And then in the last half of that consolidation, look at how the lows just started to get really tight, really rising to the upside. And then that was your signal. If you zoom in here a little bit, that one there was the breakout bar. And it was on above average volume. So that was a good signal there. And since then, rallied, took off, pulled back. We'll see where it goes. So it's looking pretty good. We'll see if it can form a little bit of cup and handle type of action here at the highs. That'd be a nice secondary base. And if we look further to the upside, on the daily chart, it is a little extended. So it'd be nice if it just sat tight here for a little bit. It has hit a little bit of a resistance zone back here. And so kind of makes sense that we're seeing a little pause right now. But if you look at these guys from the USD pair, Coinbase, they have room to run, right? They're nowhere near oversold or, overbought on the daily charts. They're just kind of marching higher and just only in the last 2 days have really broken out of this resistance zone. If you see what I'm pointing out here, this big consolidation that we were seeing at the lows, and it's only 2 days in. And so I guess we're on the third day now, right? So this one's moving nicely. The USD pairs have room to go, which leads me to kind of lean on the bullish side still with Bitcoin and some of these alts. And of course, best case scenario is a retest of these highs up here. So you're talking $47, $48 Litecoin on the USD pair if it continues to march higher. You can call that an inverse head and shoulder type of pattern there. A measured move on that would take us to, look at that, basically the next resistance zone. So about $47. So that's kind of the USD side is showing some good action from that perspective. So it just depends on your strategy. I'm mostly focusing on the Bitcoin pairs right now. So I'm looking for those alts that are outperforming BTC. And those are the setups that I'm watching here. So Litecoin has certainly been one of the leaders here. Cardano, go look at the ADA. So Cardano, I'm liking this one. Already had a nice little run. I've traded in and out of it a little bit. But so what I'm watching right now is, let me zoom out here a little bit. I'll go to the 4 hours. It's probably too messy to see that. So similar to Litecoin, right? It had this consolidation that took place over the course of about a week and a half. And you can see the lows here were just really starting to tighten up right below this resistance point. And I really like these setups, right? When you see this range really narrow just below the resistance level and it just really starts to tighten, I start looking for those signals, right? That volumes to start coming in as a good entry for a potential breakout. And there's a couple of ways to trade breakouts. And to be honest, breakouts in crypto are very tough to trade because you get so many wicks. And so there's two ways, or I guess three ways that you can do it, right? You can certainly buy pre-breakouts, right? You can see the range start to tighten and start to anticipate a breakout. So you buy near these lows with the stop just below the lower trend line. But you're kind of preempting the breakout there. You're kind of front running it a little bit, and you got to be more patient because it could take a few more days before it finally breaks out. But that's one way to do it. Gives you a pretty tight stop, kind of minimizes the risk. So that's always nice. The other one is, of course, you buy right at the breakout. You have a conditional buy right at the resistance point, and you're banking on some follow through. And of course, the third way is you buy on a throwback. So you get the breakouts, and then you put your order in right at the breakout point, and you're looking for a retest of that breakout point, kind of a pullback to resistance, and your stop is going to be just below. If it gets too deep, then at that point, failed breakout, you just get out of the way, right? So there's three real big ways to do it. And I generally will do a combination of the two if I like the setup. So in the case of Cardano, let me zoom into the 1 hour chart. It'll make more sense there. I was liking this setup, and so I took my first position on a break above this resistance here. So I said, if it moves above that, I'll get in. That's not quite pre-breakout, but it's, it's really close. So I jumped in there, and then once it broke out, that triggered my second buy order, but my second buy order had a limit buy below the breakout point. And so I was betting on it would break out, pull back a little bit, fill me, and then get going. And so that's what happened. It kind of just broke out, pulled back, and then it just started to go. But it's been pretty choppy since then. Look at this. It broke out, and it's just been this very volatile, very choppy kind of consolidation above the breakout point. So it's still in play and, not writing it off, but it has had a pretty good run already, something to keep in mind for the daily chart. Right? I mean, it's had a nice run versus BTC here on the daily, up about 40% from the ultimate lows there. But if we go to the USD pair, like I was saying on some of these others, I really like the setup here on the USD side. Very similar to Litecoin and some of these others where you can say, hey, this is an inverse head and shoulder type of pattern, and it's just now clearing some resistance here in the last 3 days, and so far holding above the breakout point. So from this perspective, it looks good. This arrow here is kind of the measured move target. So if you extrapolate that out, that takes you to about that, just above 6 cents, which happens to line up with this back here. And so in the big picture, that's kind of what I'm looking at for Cardano from a USD side. Is it looks good. The volume was there on the breakout, so I'm betting on the USD side moving higher and looking good there, and ideally that'll translate into it outperforming on the Bitcoin pair as well. So many of these charts have a similar setup. Next one up is Icon. Look at Icon, similar type of setup here. You have a inverse head and shoulder type of pattern. The breakout, we're seeing the throwback right now, as long as it continues to hold up above these moving averages, which it did retest here earlier. And then above that, I'd be looking for a test of first that 760 level on the BTC pair, and then 798. So Icon BTC, similar pattern. If we look at it from the USD side, not quite broken out yet versus Tether, right? So you're still living below that major resistance point. Right now, that's around 2.9, basically 29 cents even, 2.95. Above that would be a good breakout on the daily chart. So if it can break out above this, has a big window of room to run, I'd be looking at around 4 cents as the next target. So what does that translate to on the USD side? It's about a 37, maybe 40% move. So it's got some room to run if it can break out. So I'm liking Icon here from the USD side. And it's just nice to see that a lot of these charts are putting in these, these bigger, longer term consolidations. I mean, look at where this started. This consolidation began, way back here at end of November, and it's just kind of been meandering its way, building a low. And that's good. If they can break out and start to hold above that zone, that'll really bring some more confidence into the market overall, especially for some of these alts. So the setups are there, but we need to see some more follow through on some of these names. Some of them have already gone, right? Obviously, we looked at Tron. Tron's been going, kind of hitting the next target up on this guy and just continues to move. The last good setup on Tron on the longer time frames was this little bit of a flag that it gave us right here, and then 4 or 5 days ago broke right through that and has been rallying since. Of course, we looked at ETH, BCH, Bitcoin Cash. This is the equivalent to Bitcoin Cash ABC on the Binance side of things, or some of the other exchanges. But this one's interesting. I mean, after a monster move off the lows, I mean, this one rallied what? At the peak, 200% in 6 days. So monster move off the lows and has just been sitting very flat, very tight. And so that's really interesting. Any proof Node investor really bought the exact bottom? I never said I bought the exact bottom. No, I did not buy the exact bottom. So yeah, it's real interesting to see this one sitting tight. So it's on my radar. I did take an initial shot at it, and it just continued to pull back versus BTC, so got out of the way. But a move outside of this range, and it's getting very narrow here. You can see over the last few days, just really starting to tighten up. Let me zoom in here. Just kind of very much range bound here on this daily chart, and you can see just the last, what, 5 days or so, even tighter. How big of a range is that on the dollar side? It's about a 7% range. So still consolidating that big move. It's going to be one of those kind of next move wins type of scenario. So we'll see where this one goes. But of course, volume's got to come in if it can push through on the upside. If we look at it from the BTC pair, this does not look good from the BTC pair. And so watching this kind of descending triangle formation sitting right at the support, and it's been testing it a few times now, and over the last day or so, just living right on that. And so that's going to be interesting to see if that breaks to the downside. It needs to clear that downtrend line if it has any hope to break into the upside on the USD pair. So watching it from the USD pair or from the BTC pair, not really liking it as much anymore from this perspective because of the way this is just kind of sitting right at support. Needs to hold there. Okay, let me take a swig of some water here. I'm going to catch up on some of these comments. Let me see. I've got a couple of more we'll look at, and then I will take some requests for a few of your charts here. I know there's already seen some here. You're looking for NEO. I will check NEO out. It was already on the list there. I'm looking at Lumens, Monero, Binance, Zill. Yep, Zill's on my list. And then we will look at any others you guys want to look at. My plan is to cap this at an hour, so for another 30 minutes or so. Then we'll go from there. Yeah, I don't mind sharing the MACD settings are 1022. Excuse me, 1022.9 right here, 1022.9. And my RSI is just a standard 14-period RSI. Okay, hold on. I'm going to start taking some notes here real quick so I can make sure I don't miss them all. We'll do NEO, we'll do Zill, we'll do XLM, XMR, VeChain. So many of these names from yesteryear are like showing a little life now. Ontology, we'll look at that guy. Ripple. Try to write a few more here. I don't want to do too many just to make sure we have time to cover the ones on the list here first. Appreciate the comments, guys. What's my plan on BCH ABC? I'm just watching it right now, not doing a whole lot. I don't like the way this looks here on the BTC pair. The USD side, I mean, it certainly could break out. So for now, I'm just going to just wait on it. So I'm not doing anything with it. XLM. EOS. Basic attention token. Yeah, we did ETH already. Okay, let me get through some of these here real quick. And if we have to cycle through some of the bigger names, we'll certainly do that again. I don't mind doing that, especially, Bitcoin. We'll take a look at it again. Actually, let's go look at it real quick before we head to the others. Bitcoin. Volatile times, huh? Trying to break out here, but got smacked back down. We'll see if we can break out today. All right. Oh, real quick before we get going, I forgot to mention this at the beginning. So, couple of things here on those of you that are following along on the alerts. We're going to be adding a few more items to this. I'm excited about it. I'm going to be looking forward to getting this going some more. But right now we've had the alerts. So there's the alerts already out there. There's different types. You can get a page for each alert type. We've added this watch list, which is a auto-generated watch list. It refreshes real time, but it only gives you the last 24 hours of the top BMI values. That's a proprietary indicator. And so it'll tell you kind of what's leading the way, what's at the top of the list. So we'll look at some of those there. Right now, it's just covering Binance and Bittrex. The alerts cover more than those. They'll include KuCoin and such. And there's the new training course that is almost fully released, not 100%, but subscribers to the alert system as a bonus get access to those videos. Now, if you don't want to subscribe to the alert system, you certainly don't have to get the videos. If you go to my site, noteinvestor.com, the video course is there. It's broken out into 4 major portions, which you can purchase individually: trading psychology, risk management, strategies, and technical indicators. The strategies part is the part that's not done yet. So that will be done before the end of the month. So just letting you guys know. And you can buy the bundle package. If you buy the bundle package, we'll send an invite to the Slack group so you can join our community here online of kind of trading and charts and all that fun stuff. So just thought I'd let you guys know. Looking forward to releasing more of this material. It's certainly not the cheapest course I've done, but it's very comprehensive. The last course I did was like 3.5 hours long. This is much longer than that, but it covers a lot. So, I've got the MACD mini course here, moving averages, RSI, Fibonacci, just different things. And it's really just the way I use them in my trading. And then the strategies course will cover, the specifics of the ins and the outs and all that good stuff. So go check those out. I'll put a link in the video notes after I'm done. I didn't do that with this one here. All right. Can I do a cooking video someday? Oh man, you do not want to cook. You do not want to taste my cooking. All right, let's get to it. So NEO, looking at NEO there. NEO is, again, another one that I was watching here. Nice ascending triangle base and broke out. Yesterday we saw that throwback. I got shook out of NEO. I was watching this action, took some profit on this one, pulled back and just did nothing right. I got in right down here, rallied, never hit my target, pulled back, just mostly because of the market yesterday. Kind of going into the evening, I was not liking this reversal, so I got out of the way. And then, of course, this morning, bam, took off without me. But it's nice to see that it's still continuing to rally. It did hit my first target here on the trade that I had watched here. And look at how interesting how it is. It's just like almost exactly to that line. It hit the target. And where was that line? That line was basically this resistance right here, these prior lows. There's a low here in August. There's a low here in October. That broke down, and that wick almost exactly went right back to that prior point. So that was my target on the upside. But that's what I'm watching there on NEO. Still looking pretty good. And going back to NEO USD, some of these other ones here, that one's looking great, right? So like so many of these others, right, from the USD side, just breaking out here over the last couple of days, showing some good volume on the breakout, and has a big window before any major resistance point, right? I mean, so it's got room to run. It's kind of crazy. We're talking $8 NEO, but yeah, $8 NEO, and has room to run. Well, $9 NEO now, but I'm watching kind of $12 range is the next upside target if this rally gets some more traction here. So USD side, NEO still looking pretty good from that perspective. And that's just kind of in line with some of these other alts that we're watching here. The setups from that perspective are looking pretty good here. Salt. I haven't looked at salt in a while. So let's look at that one here. XLM. Someone's asking about that one here. I did have that on my list. Let me go to XLM. Let me go dollar pair XLM first. Now this one, keep in mind, is still a potential Coinbase ad, but the list of potential ads has now grown substantially here. But looking at XLM, I'm watching this little resistance point here. But on the BTC pair, I really like the setup there. It's right at the lows, potentially forming a double bottom. So that's the level I'd be watching on the dollar pair. A move above, what is that, 13 cents basically, would kind of confirm this break of resistance. But from the BTC side, I showed you this. This is what I'm watching here, this trade setup. So I'm liking it at the lows. Looks to be finding some support on this longer term picture. Hasn't confirmed yet, but maybe forming a double bottom. I like the volume that came in yesterday on that move off the lows. It's still below the 10 EMA, still below the 22 EMA on this chart, but you zoom in here a little bit. I'm liking the setup here, more from a buying near the lows type of thing. So that's what I'm watching on XLM, and really this setup will be in play until these lows are violated here around that 2900 level. So confirmation will not be until it can clear, this little swing high is what I'm looking at. So 3300 is the level to be watching on the upside. If it can get above that, then the next target that I'm looking for is around 35.45 on the BTC pair. So I'm certainly liking it. It's on my radar. It's on the top of my watch list right now. So that one's certainly good right now. ZIL, not that ZIL. ZIL's looking pretty good. Shared this with the group yesterday on some setups here that I was watching. My top three yesterday were Binance, ZIL, and Monero and Icon, top four. And ZIL broke out. This one's looking pretty good. Good volume coming in here on this guy. Hit the initial target that I was watching on that quick trade. But if you go to this daily chart here on ZIL, it's just, look at this daily chart. Right at resistance here, just starting to clear that. And you've got a big window up to around 670 is that next big target. So still moving. And ZIL has been strong here for a while now. It's already been moving. This is what, up 50% from the lows there, from this most recent swing low here in early December. So ZIL still looking pretty good there. If I wasn't in it here, I'm not so sure I would chase it just yet. I'd probably look for a little bit of a throwback, but the trend is your friend. It's moving out. ZIL, XLM, XMR. So looking at Monero. Now, Monero is another one I'm watching. It's just kind of consolidating here. I'm not doing anything with it yet. Let me move this out of the way. I always like to estimate kind of risk reward there, and that's what that is. But I'm watching these lows starting to get tightened up here, right? Higher lows starting to set, but it's been very volatile, right? You got these big kind of swing high attempts here, here, and here. So certainly has been volatile, but if it can start to break out of this range here on this pair, it's around 13.5 or so. Is kind of what I'm looking at as an early signal, with this trend line being the stop is what I would use. The ideal stop is that trend line there. Looking at it from the USD side, on Bitfinex, it's looking good from that perspective. Looking like it might want to break out here. You can see it's had these little rally attempts right at resistance. And so I'm watching this here around that 56.50 level. Close above that would signal a breakout. And right now it's kind of just forming this little kind of handle type of pattern. So not a bad one. I think there's some stronger setups out there, but it's on my radar right now. VeChain dollar. Seen some volume coming in here today. VeChain kind of clearing some resistance here, so that's good. See, it's been very range bound here for a bit, but seeing some good volume coming in. Let me zoom in a little bit on this guy. For the 1 hour chart here, VeChain. It had an attempt here earlier. You see that big wick pop right through, but it's still holding up well. So looking pretty good there. Oops. Dollar side, our daily side, VeChain has taken such a beating here on the daily chart, and maybe it's finally putting in a low. So this is a good low to be watching here. I'd be watching basically this low. If it breaks below that, that setup's kind of null at that point, which is just below that 4 cent, 3.9 cent mark or so. VeChain BTC, such a low sat that it I like the way the chart always looks on this guy. But daily chart, trying to turn the corner, maybe has found a low, a little bit of a double bottom, similar to XLM, where it's like right at the lows there, attempting to put a support zone right there. So you can call that a nice bullish engulfing candle forming on that daily chart right at the lows. And your stop would basically be, what is that, 102, 101, in and around there. So that's what I'd be watching from that perspective. Ontology. Let me see here. I was watching this guy earlier today. It's right back at the EMA pairs. I was reading your comments. Distracted here with the comments. So this is the daily chart of ONT BTC here, and very range bound. I'd like to see this guy clear out of the range first. It attempted it earlier today. A little bit of a wick here, still below these moving averages, but some volumes coming in here a little bit. Let me go to that 4-hour chart. So that's what I'd be watching here. Probably an early signal would be a close above that, which is, where is that? 1640 basically. So ontology, but I do like that volume starting to come in here in the last couple candles there. So interesting to watch that. This one really moves too. I've noticed when it gets going, I mean, you get these big breakouts. So I'm going to keep that one on the radar today. XRP. Can't call it Ripple and you'll get slaughtered by the XRP army. So looking at XRP, I was watching this one here. It was right at resistance. This is the daily chart. And I was hoping it formed a little cup and handle type of pattern. But this trend line was also something I was keeping an eye on. And you can see over the last 4 days, just kind of drifting below that trend line. The 10 EMA has crossed back below. It's still technically above this support here. So that's really the key level to be watching. But I don't like that it broke that trend line. It would have been nice to see that bounce right off the trend line and then, you know, just kind of move off of this zone here through resistance, which it didn't. So kind of keep an eye on it. But, you know, big picture is just kind of consolidating this big move, holding above, what is that, 8,700, 8,600 would really be the ideal scenario. If we look at it from the dollar pair, though, let's get an interesting perspective when you look at it from both angles there. But looking at it from the dollar pair, this doesn't look bad, right? It's just kind of really getting this symmetrical triangle pattern setting up here, and it's kind of setting up for a breakout. So I might have to put an alert here. Was that 37 cents? That'll kind of be an early signal if it can pop through that level there. So interesting setup here on Ripple. All right, XLM. We did Tron, BNB. Yeah, BNB. I'll go to the BNB BTC pair because that's the setup that I was liking yesterday. Was broke out above this near-term resistance, rallied, and then just fizzled out. And I think this rally was kicked off when they did the trading competition on Binance, is when they kicked that off. But you can see it had 2 throwbacks basically right to that point. And man, I missed out on this trade here because I was watching this throwback thinking this might not be a bad entry, and this big wick outside reversal bar spooked me. So I said, you know, I'm going to just wait. I'm not going to take this entry here. And then I wake up this morning and it's popping nicely. So that's a good setup there. It's still moving nicely. And really, it's just kind of getting started, to be honest with you. I mean, it's just really the breakout point here. Above this level, I mean, look at the window that it has, right? I mean, above this level, you've got a big space in between. So still looking good. I may have to look for a re-entry point on that guy. How much is that to the next level up? Talking from here, about 20%. So it's got some potential still, and downside risk. So if you did a risk reward ratio on that, you're looking at, you know, potentially 19-20% upside for a potentially 6 to 7% downside. You know, below that line, I'd get out of the way. If it undercut today's low, to me that'd be a failed breakout. So still not bad. It's a 2.5 R multiple. All right, a couple more here, and we are about 15 minutes out of the time here. So let me see. We've got EOS. Let me clear these for you guys here. EOS looked like it was about to get going a few days ago and has just kind of fizzled out, but still holding the EMA pairs on that daily chart. If you go to the 4-hour charts, you know, it's kind of been inverted and just finding some resistance now. I was liking EOS here. Hit this point here, pulled back, and really what I was watching was I wanted to see EOS break out above this level here, and it hasn't yet. So that's kind of the near-term picture that I'd be watching on EOS. But EOS dollar. EOS dollar. Now that one looks much better. I'm seeing this really tighten up here. And I'd be looking at not this ultimate high is kind of the breakout point, but really I'd be looking at right there. All right, so this most recent history is really the levels that I'd be watching here. So you're talking about 285 is the, closing above that would be good, with the swing low here at 268 is kind of the stop point if I entered that trade from the USD side. So that's what I'd be watching there. So EOS USD is looking pretty good from that perspective. Oh yeah. Buy more Tron. Monaco. I'm just kind of reading the comments here. When? I haven't looked at when in a while. All right, we got a couple more on the request list, and we'll get through those quickly, and we'll see how much time we got to kind of cover a few more here. Basic attention. Bat was looking maybe like it had found a low here. A couple days ago, we saw that pop right through that downtrend line, and it's fully retraced that. It's still technically holding this low, so ideally that's what you want to see. If it does that, then you can begin to see a little bit of a double bottom type of formation if it begins to rally again off of that low. So it is looking interesting. This downtrend line here has been a source of resistance, finally broke through that, and it just kind of fizzled out, pulls right back in. So I'm watching this level right now, see if it can hold that. On the daily chart, similar type of action. And this low just really corresponds with, some major wicks way back here in November. So that makes sense. If it can hold that low there, break below that would not be good. You could likely see a retest of that 2,800 level. But right now, let's go back to BTC. If you missed the first segment of this near term, right, 4-hour charts, all that stuff, it's been looking good. It's been looking positive. Big picture, though, weekly charts, just please keep that in mind, right? The big picture, this is really just a bounce, right? It's a bear market bounce. We've had this huge breakdown. We've hit some oversold conditions. We're finally got a low, and we bounced, and we've been bouncing off that. And the alts have really been bouncing. If you look at some of the percentage gains, names like, ETH and some of those names that were coming off the lows, very good action, no doubt. But just keep in mind, we're bouncing, and the further this bounce goes, it's going to get deeper into this resistance level. And so I'm just kind of keeping this in mind, right? Knowing that at any time, we can get some overhead pressure really showing up and the sellers start taking over again. So just got to keep that in mind in the big picture. Link, forgot to cover Link. I'm liking Link here. I was looking at this one for a throwback entry. You can see Link basically pulled right back to the breakout point that it had last week after that monster move is pulling in, and it's trying to find a low here. So if it can establish this low and support around that 99,000 level or so, this would be a good one to be keeping an eye on here. I'm liking the action here today. Volume's finally coming back in on this hourly chart, seeing this little bit of a pullback, starting to turn the corner, but we saw that here a few days ago, so just got to keep that in mind. But the fact that it's right back to the breakout point looks pretty good. So it's on the radar right now. This also happened to correspond on the daily chart with the 10 EMA and held that almost perfectly, undercut it just a little bit, which was good. Volume on this pullback has been declining following 2 massive days up. So maybe Link has found a low. Right. Let's do a few more here. I'm going to go through the comments, see what we got. Steam. Haven't looked at Steam in a while. Sorry for the radio silence here. EOS, IOST, ELA, ENJ. I'm going to really quickly just send a cycle through some of these charts here, guys. Monaco, somebody was pointing out Monaco, Steam. Steam, there's a name from yesteryear. Some volume coming in off the lows here. Interesting. Yeah, Steam. Steam looks like it maybe has found a pretty good low versus BTC. OMG. OMG. See here, OMG. Kind of choppy at the lows here. Some of these names. This is versus BTC. How's it look versus USD? OMG dollar. OMG dollar looks pretty good. See this kind of rising lows here. Be nice to hold that pattern. And closing above, what is that, 162 or so would be good. OMG looks good. 0x. 0x on Coinbase. Here's 0x a dollar. There's so many similar patterns right now. On the BTC side here. BTC side. I don't know. Still making lower lows here on the BTC side. Got to see this guy clear this trend line right now. All right, let me see here. Walton. I'm pulling up daily charts just to kind of get a big picture view real quick. Yeah. Got a clear level right there on Walton. Let me go to the 4-hour view. Man, these are some spiky charts here at the lows. And that's, that's normal, right? At the lows, there's the battle, right? The bulls and the bears, the buyers and the sellers. Maybe this is low, maybe it's not, and you get a lot of this back and forth. But if they can push it through that, was that 3,300 level and really start to get above that level, then it kind of shows that the turning of the trend may begin. So interesting. All right, let me see here. Walton, Salt. Has EOS died? I don't know. I don't think so. Has EOS died? All of crypto is dead. All the coins have died. Salt. Salt was on my radar a few days back when I had this big push through, but it's still very much just range bound. I mean, it's just very flat and choppy. So that's really it. I mean, that's the level to be watching on Salt if it can break out in this range here. Monaco IOST. No, I didn't skip Monaco. I did it. You missed it. It was so fast. I did it. See? Pulled it up. All right. Knowles? Knowles? Knowles. I'm kind of still just drifting lower here on this BTC pair. Lower lows, lower highs. Steam, ELA, ENJ. Engine had a pretty good run for a while there. Kind of pausing right now. How's this pullback lining up to some fib levels? It's just right around that 50% level right now on the daily chart here. Looking at the 4-hour view. Got some big wicks, but some volume might be coming in here a little bit. All right, let me see here. WAN chain. Look at WAN. Not look at WAN chain. What we'll do is we'll take a look at the other watch list here real quick to see if I've skipped anything. WAN chain. WAN chain. Man, it's right there. What is that? 875 or so. It's got to hold. All right, let's take a look at some other names here real quick, and then we will wrap it up. Appreciate you guys being here. Bitcoin, the battle continues, trying to break out above 4,100. We'll see. I did not like that big volume reversal earlier today, making me cautious. Broke out, big volume came in. So below that 3980, then you could likely see a retest of the breakout point here, 8,600, 86, 3,800, 3,860. Let me see what's leading here today. I'm going to go to the watch list. Let me cycle through here. So let me see. DLT, that keeps showing up on the watch list. We did ZIL, we did Tron, hot. IOST, Binance, VeChain, Neo, Litecoin, AirSwap, huh? Neo, Stellar, Binance, Steam, Poet, Ontology, all right. Raven. Let's take a look at some of these here. DLT, this has just been running for a while now. Choppy. Couple days of good upside. Look at that pullback entry. Boom. Big pops to the upside. I'm not sure what's driving that. I haven't looked into that one at all. Hot. IOST. Oh yeah, IOST still going. Wow, that's on Bittrex. Continues to rally, man, and this one just keeps flashing on the alerts, and I've not paid attention to it. I've neglected it, and it's running strongly. Very nice, IOST. This is a good secondary entry point right here. That's your breakout point. What was that? Around 153, 154. So nice little move. Look at that consolidation. I mean, that's sending triangle base right there. Boom. Volume comes in, pushes it right through. Interesting. All right. IOST, we did Litecoin. We've done all these already. AirSwap, huh? AST. We looked at Engine, Stratus. AirSwap, just kind of sitting at the lows. Stratus was attempting to turn the corner here earlier. We'll see if it does. It's been in a nice little decline here for a while. Maybe finding a low, maybe. Okay. All right, guys. Any other names real quick before we get going? Let me see. I'm going to look at the comments here. We're pretty much at the hour, and I wanted to keep it to an hour. EOS, we did EOS, Litecoin, IOST. Raven, let me take a quick look at Raven here. Remember when Raven was running to the moon? Raven. Man, look at that. It's almost fully retraced that whole move that it had in November. That was a wild move. Raven. I don't know. It may maybe finding a low, but there's certainly no confirmation of that yet. At least not on the daily chart. We looked at Salt already real quick. Ripple, OMG, EOS. Okay. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, though, it's going to be what BTC does. A lot of the USD pairs are setting up nicely, so I'm keeping an eye on that side of things. But, we're going to see what BTC does here today. Volume's coming in. There's a little bit of a battle happening right at this resistance point. Getting above 4,100, staying above 4,100 today would be very positive. It's what the bulls want to see here today. So we'll see if that can play out here in the next few hours. There's still plenty of time left before the end of the close of this daily candle here. So see how this plays out. But that's really what I'm watching right now. If it fails to hold this level, then the next level to be watching here is the breakout point around here to the low of that candle. If it breaks below the low of that candle, it just totally negates that. Would be bearish in my opinion. So I don't want to see that. So kind of in between here. It'd be strongest if it just held right now and sat tight, finally pushed through to the upside. So some of the alts are kind of following suit, holding tight. We're seeing some good breakouts. BNB, Neo, Litecoin still looking strong. ZIL, Link may have found a bottom. What else did we cover here today? Icon, USD looks good. EOS, USD looks good. So a few setups out there. So there's potential setups showing up. Lumens may have found a low. Cool. And then Tron, of course, is leading right now. So we did Tron already. Just continues to power higher. Hit the target that I was watching on the upside here on the BTC pair. So just keep in mind there. But Tron dollar still marching along. Cool. Okay, guys. Thanks for being here. Appreciate the support and the comments and the interaction. I will see you guys in the next one. Take care, everyone. Have a good day.